This isn't on air. Think it might be. Time for dancing. Hello and welcome to Elevator Pitch, the show where we talk to indie developers primarily about their upcoming projects. Today we are joined by Matt Raithel, is it?
Raithel, yeah, very close.
Raithel! I went for it. Sometimes you just go for it. I'm also joined by my ever-present friend James.
Hey everyone.
Hooray. Okay, so your game that's currently being kickstarted is Hive Jump. So tell us a little bit about Hive Jump.
Hive Jump, for sure. Yeah, first, thanks for having me on. Hive Jump, first and foremost, we grew up in kind of the 8-bit era, so Hive Jump is something that's inspired for us by games like Metroid and Contra. But Hive Jump at its core is a co-op multiplayer action shooter, certainly with a few cultural influences from movies like Starship Troopers and literature like Ender's Game. But the story here is that distant planets that were once populated with human life are now fallen silent. The Human Systems Alliance has found that a race of ancient alien species is the culprit for causing these planets to go suddenly silent. And these aliens have infested the planets from within. Huge alien hives have now been discovered under the planet's surface. And so now it's up to a group of dedicated space marines to travel to these planets, dive deep down below the planet's surface, and eliminate the infestation from within. So the basics of the game are you and up to 7 of your friends, 8 total players, can take control of a group of space marines with the goal of eliminating these alien threats by hand-delivering a transponder backpack to the center of each hive. So one member of your squad is going to be carrying this backpack that really is the important treasure to get down below the surface of the hive. This backpack will allow the orbiting human ship to beam a nuke directly to the core once it's placed in the queen room of the hive. So players deliver this payload by traveling down deep through all of these randomly generated, procedurally generated alien caverns in search for the queen room, where they'll set the backpack and initiate a countdown sequence for the nuke to be beamed in. At that point, it's kind of a nice moment where a huge battle will ensue, battling the queen bug, the biggest of the big bugs in the hive, before the time runs out and you beam out in the last few seconds to allow the nuke to go off and clear the hive. Plenty of action along the way. This alien race is very arthropod-like, very crustacean, very heavily armored, but also very aggressive. So we've got different classes and characters of bugs. They have different behaviors. They travel, small ones might travel in packs. The big ones, or the medium-sized bugs like you're seeing here, might be more loners, where you and your space marine buddies can gang up on them, use different tactics to take advantage of the weak spots and take them down. So there's a lot of different ranges of bugs that will be introduced as you go through the game. But because we've got a very heavy alien threat here, we also give the Marine a huge variety of weapons they can choose from before they deploy. These weapons will range from simple things like plasma rifles and flamethrowers to more surreal and fictitious weapons, wave beams and lasers and other things, each with their own special benefits and modifiers. So one unique thing that we're doing with this game is that each gun is actually assembled from different parts. You have the material, like flame, for example. You have a modifier, like, say, the spread gun that we all loved from the early Contra days on the NES. And then you have an amplifier, which will change how much damage the weapon does, how big the blast is, that sort of thing. So, as an example, you could deploy one of your Space Marines with a flamethrower that's shot through a spreader that's amplified by a BFG modifier, so you have 3 shots of flame coming out of 3 different parts of your Marine, each 10 times normal size because it's gone through this amplifier. So the idea here is that we would have many, many materials to choose from, many, many different modifiers, and many different amplifiers, creating a really wide variety of guns that you could use to actually jump in on these hives. And of course, all the other Marines in your group would get to have their pick too before you actually make the jump.
Yeah, that's very cool. It actually, I've been playing a lot of Loadout recently, that free-to-play FPS, and they've got they've got that build your own gun mechanic, and that it really allows people to tackle things their own way. And when you're building a team, everyone can work together and design guns of a different type, and a lot of variety from that. I like that sort of building of your own weapons and arsenal in a game.
And is that what the Sorry, is that what the shooting range is for? So I'll be able to go and build my own weapons and then sort of test them out in that shooting range?
Yeah, so the shooting range was really just kind of a campy graphic that we threw up just to kind of complement the page. But it's something where we're like, hey, maybe we need that, like, so that they can try different combinations. For now, I guess what we plan for the actual game is just make your weapon, jump into the hive, and good luck, soldier, kind of thing. But yeah, we see that collection of different weapons and types something that can continue to grow, so we can continually be adding new material types, that sort of thing.
And all these components and materials, will you be collecting them or being awarded them at the end of a match, or are they just going to be open, or how will the players be getting those?
It's a great question. Some of both. So the idea here is that you have a group of scientists on your ship that are synthesizing parts of the bug that you blow up. So your currency in the game are actual pieces of the bug. So when you blow one up, it'll shatter into little pieces of goo and bug bits. You collect those as your currency. The scientists then on your ship get that goo, and then they can synthesize more effective weapons to battle the bugs. So let's say I've collected 1,000 goo parts. The scientists can synthesize that into the flamethrower, right? So there's a bit of an economy there. And then there's an option for when you're fighting some of the, we'll call them like mini-boss style bugs, there's a chance that one of those might maybe have ingested a soldier or someone that has previously jumped. So when you destroy, say, that big crushing bug that you were showing earlier in the cast, maybe you have a random chance that he's eaten a soldier who had a flamethrower before, so boom, instant unlock for flamethrower type of thing. So we see those.
You even got the reason for the drop, which is nice.
Yeah, so this game isn't meant to be too serious. With references like Starship Troopers, we can't really say that we're being too serious, even though there's some definite history to that title. But we like the kind of let's have fun with this thing. But we want there still to be some lore and logic behind how these things happen. We feel that would make more sense for the players.
Now, just one more follow-up on that. If you're getting the goo, if it's co-op, are we sharing the goo or are we fighting over the goo?
It's a good question, and it's one that we don't really even have an answer to yet. We're kind of playing it both ways to see what's most comfortable. And because you're jumping in as a team, we kind of like the share the goo type of thing. But there might be an opportunity if we build more game types to this. It might be in kind of a different game type where what you get is what you keep type of thing. But for now, I'm kind of leaning more towards the share the goo. So we promote more teamwork, more conversation between the teams, so you feel like more of a single unit as you're jumping. So, for example, if somebody wants to have more of a, what's called like a health gun, where the shots they fire heal the team works together to actually unlock that weapon for that jump, so that they can have kind of a healing unit in their jump. So we like that collaboration between a team. That's kind of why we're leaning that way right now.
And that sort of collaboration is co-op. Yeah, that's what it lives and dies on, really.
Sure.
And on that as well, before you're talking about they take the backpack into the center to get. Is there only one player carrying the backpack? And if so, do they have any restrictions or benefits from having that backpack?
There is only one player carrying the backpack, but what is kind of unique about it is the backpack is tossable as an item. So if you find yourself getting your head ripped off, you can throw the backpack to one of your teammates. When a soldier carrying the backpack dies, that backpack gets kind of propulsion style just ejected from where their corpse died. So it's got kind of that safety measure built in. When that backpack is loose like that, the bugs will immediately go after it and try to attack it and destroy the backpack. So it's up to your other teammates to kind of grab it before the bugs do and carry on the mission. As long as that backpack survives, your home ship can keep beaming more soldiers. So the idea is if I had a soldier and I was holding the backpack and I've died, I go back to my ship, I can modify my loadout and then hit redeploy, and I'll beam to wherever that backpack is.
So is the ship sort of the main point of player progression? I'm guessing the soldiers are pretty expendable and they die all the time. So is the bit that's saved between the runs, is that the ship itself?
Right. So kind of the ship itself, your weapons loadout, that kind of thing, could be consistent between jumps. So as we expand that part of the game, we might find that it is much more beneficial to have those things be kind of permanently unlocked. So you unlock more and more weapons. It makes you more successful with further and more difficult jumps later on.
Yeah. One of the things I think we commented on the show was just I liked the idea that it was a run with like a definite end. Like you jump in and there's a goal. How long is it expected to take with a group of people?
Yeah, I remember that comment. And we like that too, so that it would have this kind of fixed cycle to it. You know, we have heard references everywhere from like a League of Legends match where you take, sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes if you explore everything, it takes 40 minutes, but certainly under an hour. You know, we think that kind of 30 minutes feels like the sweet spot to us, because we've all played those League matches that take too long. We've all played the ones that wrap in like 15 minutes when it's really unbalanced. So we like that 30-minute kind of time period.
Yeah. And along the way, so all these levels are randomly generated. Is there going to be any other kind of little goals or subplots thrown in along the way?
Yeah, so all of those types of things we've got to really uncover as we continue both through our Kickstarter plan as we continue forward with the game. So a few different plot points, we'll say. Certainly some opportunities to go through and find chest-like rooms where wreckage from a previous jump might be there, so you can instantly unlock different weapons or possibly more quantities of disposables like bombs and other things. So part of it is very weapon-focused, certainly an opportunity to discover a room where a bunch of bugs have been previously nuked, so there's a lot of goo collection, so some currency bonuses, as well as other big kind of loner bugs like the one you saw in the animation that require specific strategy. We're not going so far as to say or presume that these are puzzles like a lot of people do with their boss battles. This is very action-oriented. Shooting a bug in the head is going to be somewhat effective in all cases, but it might be super fast, so that there's a way to slow it down with a particular gun that might make it easier. So there's some strategy at every turn. But those three things are things that we're actively designing in the game right now. So different kind of cavern rooms for bonuses that make it easier, as well as kind of mini boss battles that might take a little bit more time, but you have some chance for bonus as you're making the jump.
So one of the things we were also excited at the prospect of, and I don't believe it's currently in the game, but you're looking at, is having local co-op, like single screen or split screen co-op on couch and TV. What's the possibility of that happening at this stage?
Definitely something we're shooting for. Really, as many different configurations as we can make accessible for this game to help promote the multiplayer, the better. Certainly, if we're going to have any conversations about kind of looking forward to consoles and that sort of thing, we have to design this game with that in mind. So rest assured the design is going into it. And, then it's just a programming challenge, optimization, performance challenge, just make sure it all works. But definitely interested in moving in that direction.
How many players do you want as your upper limit?
Right now we're working with 8. There's not. It's just a performance consideration. How many can we reasonably connect and make sure that all systems can still perform appropriately. We've been playing in-house with 6 for quite some time. 6 seems pretty solid, so we're kind of pushing ourselves to add. Let's go to 8. Well, if we can get 8 and it's optimized, can we push to 10? But right now, as far as what we're putting out there publicly, is shooting for 8.
Okay. 8 seems like I would think, 6 to 8 seems like a good number. How many different ways are there we can sort of play together? Like, what are the different... Like, I know you mentioned things like healing guns, but what other ways can I work with people to kind of get through down to the queen?
Sure. So a lot of it is very action-focused. So it is a lot about, kind of grabbing the gun that works for you and kind of all pushing together. Working with the backpack specifically becomes very important, so making sure that you can volley that between your teammates as you're getting annihilated by the bugs. Right now they're trained to go after the backpack, so if you are the one carrying it, you better have some backup, which makes it, it makes it for some fun times where if you've got the backpack, that you're going to be the target, so you have one or two of your soldier buddies hanging out, and then a few can kind of go ahead to scout. So it's something where some of that kind of how do we play question is getting answered as we're testing this thing, and we're starting to see some of these methods of play expose themselves. We at Graphite Lab are very iterative in nature in how we design for ourselves. We've done a lot of contract projects which have very set specific specs we have to hit, and those are fine to just kind of go waterfall style. But this is something, Hive Jump is something that we've approached, played, revised, played, revised, and we'll continue to do that as we make the game.
And the weapons themselves, you mentioned there'd be like a kind of healing stuff. Is there going to be much other kind of status effect things like slow or stuns or CCs, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so you'll see some that are kind of what I'll consider staples like healing and slow. Some others that will cause things like knockback, and others that I think are more kind of elegant abilities that you're just going to have to try and see, oh, this actually does help quite a lot against this type of enemy. And there's some that have specific characteristics like being able to pass through terrain, so that when bugs are actually crawling, kind of around in front of the camera where the player can't pass, let's say you have like a wave beam that can pass through terrain, it'll make you more effective when the bugs are in that state. So there is some strategy here. We make we make it very clear this is all about quick, fast-paced action. But your choice of weapon really does matter when you jump in. There's lots of different bug behaviors that we're still continually designing and implementing. So the goal here is about variety, it's about balance, and about action.
I like the idea that, because you mentioned that you could go back up to the ship and change your loadout, then come back down if you die. I really do like the idea of there being kind of synergies between those weapons, so we can go, oh, there's lots of little guys, so maybe we'll get the goo gun to slow them down, and someone else gets the flamethrower, and we can kind of take them out that way. Is that sort of the kind of thing you envision with the different weapon types?
Yeah, exactly. Not just with the weapon types, but with things like the amplifiers. So you might have an amplifier that makes your kind of bursted ammunition very large, but very slow and with a slow rate of fire. But if you're battling just one single big kind of final enemy, it makes a lot of sense because we only need to hit him a few times with the big gun. But it doesn't work out so well when you're at kind of the beginning stage of the hive where there's lots of these little guys and they're coming at you super fast. So we like the idea that as you get further into the hive, you'll have to kind of change up your weapons, change up your strategy, but at minimum just create a lot of variety for gameplay.
Yeah, and it also creates a lot of experimentation as well if there's that option there to just try. And that's something I personally love in games, when you can just go, well, I don't know if it's going to be any good, but we'll give it a go.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to make sure that these things kind of look good while you're doing it too. So if it can look cool on screen, if it can be a lot of energy. I think somebody had mentioned looking at our gameplay video, even with just a few of the basics guns, said, "Oh my God, it looks like Geometry Wars insanity." We, especially as you add more and more players, it does get a little bit hectic. But we like that. I mean, we want there to be a lot of life in this game. We want it to be very frenetic and kind of like your pants are on fire when you're jumping down into this thing.
That's cool. You mentioned on the Kickstarter that you've got an impressive number of titles under your belt. I think you say you've worked on over 50 games, kind of dating back to the GBA era. How have you found the industry's kind of changed in recent years from back when you were making GBA games? I think the biggest difference is just how individuals can get games to market. So when we were working in the GBA, I mean, PC computing was still very prominent, so you could still make a game on PC and ship it out. But when you think about it, I mean, I'd have to Google it, but like, when did Steam really become prominent? I mean, 2002, 2004 was Steam might have been a twinkle in Valve's eye, but it certainly wasn't the powerhouse that it is now. Well, we were all forced to install it because we all wanted Half-Life 2, and then we all grumbled about it, and then it was sort of like we all hated it for 2 years.
Sure. So I mean, certainly some things like that. I mean, the mobile scene was like the unwanted little brother of the games industry for the beginning. Now it's like even big juggernaut developers are like, oh, check out this cool iOS game I made, you know? So, but having even just, you know, the App Store as a place where you can make a game and get it out there, so that's changed quite a lot. You know, being required back in the day to go through, you know, platform certification and all that kind of stuff, to even get licensed as a developer for those systems was a huge gate that kept out a lot of good ideas. So that's been the most significant change that I've seen. I'm sure there are many, many others.
Cool. So currently we've got the game on Kickstarter. It's still got the best part of a month ago. How are you finding your Kickstarter experience so far?
Kickstarter has been quite a few surprises and quite a few things that I think, expected. You know, one of the things that we really didn't do, and I think that's, you know, obviously shows itself in kind of our progress so far, is we really didn't do any pre-announcement of this. We kind of let the world know about Hive Jump the day that we hit the big green button on Kickstarter, the day we shipped it. It was the same day we put it on Greenlight. So certainly is something that we would do differently if we were to do this again. You know, even a couple of weeks of promotion of the game and just kind of getting it out there does wonders for visibility when you're trying to do something like this. So that's something that I feel definitely hurt us getting started. I mean, you can see, looking at the Kickstarter page now, that it's still a very slow start. We still got a lot of ground to cover if we're going to be successful. So we've really shifted our mentality to trying to kind of keep this thing close to our chest before we announce it, to now very much wanting to just, you know, talk about this game. We're proud of this game and what we think it could be. So it's definitely required a huge kind of culture shift within our team to go from what was a very silent, you know, work-for-hire mindset of just kind of quietly making game behind the scenes and not talking about it, to talking about this to everyone and really trying to push this game out there.
Yeah, openness seems to be a big current trend in the industry. People are learning that the secretive nature doesn't necessarily pay off anymore. We've got early access, and everyone's, yeah. The amount of times a game comes off on Kickstarter and I say, I saw that a year ago. Finally, I can give you some money. It's still 2 years before it's released anyway.
Yeah, so that would be the kind of the number one thing that we learned, and we learned that 24 hours after we launched the thing. Yeah, but Kickstarter has been very cool. Just even getting, you know, the game out there and being able to talk about it, seeing it on Greenlight, seeing good reaction there, you know, even though, like most people, you know, we want as much for this game as possible, having the backers that we do already like the game, sharing the game, kind of being advocates for it, has been very flattering and encouraging, even though we know we still got a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, and speaking of Kickstarter, I also just remember reading on the page that you're using Sprite Lamp, which was a Kickstarter project for lighting 2D sprites. How have you found that?
Quite nice. So we've been talking with Finn, who's writing Sprite Lamp. Kickstarted it quite a lot, actually, and we have done some demos, and we've pushed those out, Reddit and YouTube and other places. So, and we even just before I jumped on this podcast, we're doing another design session around Sprite Lamp. I think as a technology, it's very cool. The opportunities that it presents for 2D sprite-based games and how we can light those, I think is really tremendous. That's what attracted us to it in the first place. Yeah, what you're showing there it's just cool to see. Like, it very much, even for us, is like magic when we're seeing it in the preview. And we really hope that we could be one of the first ones to market showcasing this technology.
And it's really cool seeing something like pixel art taken from something which was, you know, it was kind of mimicking retro themes and sort of, you know, those kinds of things, and really extended and taken somewhere else and kind of owned as kind of like a modern art style. So it's always really good to see, you know, those kind of actual implementations of nice lighting and, you know, particle effects and all that kind of stuff into pixel art.
Sure. Well, and we felt like Hive Jump was a really good fit for it because we wanted to kind of jump into these darker caverns. These bugs live underground, so maybe they have some sort of bioluminescence. And so that's what we're going through right now, is how do we create the maps and the normals to where we can light the kind of the bulbous parts of their back with different lighting passes, so that those can kind of glow. Mm-hmm. So their whole body could be dark and you can't really see them, but you see these kind of glowing eyes, like in the forest type of thing. So you know that a butt whooping is very close by. You just can't see it yet. So they could have some anticipation, some suspense. That coupled with some really good sound design, and we think there could be some really intense things that can go down with this game, and Sprite Lab could help us achieve at least the visual side of that.
Nah, it's looking good.
Yeah, I'm going to do a very selling thing for you here, because I think it's actually kind of interesting. On your Kickstarter, the game at the moment, there's a early backers for $10 for the game, which very fair price for a game like this. But
sure.
You've got that $30 tier, which is a recruiting key for your friends.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is kind of a unique selling there. So give us the little sales pitch on that, because I think people would actually care about that.
So this was something that we actually added maybe 2 or 3 days after we launched, and it very much became a kind of a do or die moment for us to say, do we really want this game played by millions of people, or do we just want to kind of keep what we've had set up and just kind of call it a day? And the decision was definitely to get this game played by as many people as possible. So what that recruiting key does is, if you back the game at $30, you're going to get your own unique recruiting key that you can give out free copies of the game to as many friends as you have. We've had a few questions about it, like how many keys can I get? And we've had a few different responses. We haven't settled on one yet, but we've responded with the word loads. We've responded with the word tons. We've said, how many friends do you have? But that's really it. We're a studio that has worked very hard to kind of set up Hive Jump in a way that we can make it reliably, without starving tomorrow kind of thing. And so this is very much about us being as true to the fans as we can be, and true to our mission of getting this game out to as many people as we can. So we're not looking to retire on this game, but we very much would love to have 1 million players of Hive Jump. And so we feel like that recruiting key, being able to give that game out, as a unique thing for Kickstarter, could help us get that done.
And that's I'm sure there'll be, some people will exploit to a degree, but the thing is, even if it's being exploited, that's creating value for everyone else that is doing the game, because having a robust community around the game makes it better for everyone.
Yeah,
so
we felt like it was
a game like this.
Yeah, we felt like it was a really strong statement as an independent developer to say we care more about the community. We don't want to retire off this game. We want to make it for a long time, and to do that right and have it be a good fun time, we need lots of players. So here's your key. Thanks for backing us. Thanks for helping get this thing done. And now go find some friends to jump with you.
Don't worry, I don't have very many friends, so it probably would be just cheaper to buy an individual one. Okay, well, I think we might start bringing this to a close. So, final questions, James?
Yeah, I sort of mentioned before that you've been involved in this for a fair while. Is there any advice you'd give to kind of some indie new bloods that kind of want to make a little indie game, maybe kickstart it, maybe just kind of release it for free?
Sure. Well, I definitely would say take your risks early, and I think that goes for anyone in indie and any industry, really, games included. But I've been in this industry 10 years, and so as we've kind of grown, Graphite Lab and grown our experience and everything, it makes it really hard to take risks, right? Even with us being a small group. So it's really taken, even at Graphite Lab, this particular studio that I'm with, it's taken us 5 years to really get around to something this big where we can announce an original property. So for those out there that might be, even in high school, if you've got an inspiration and an itch to make games, there's tons of tools available to you. Tons of resources and materials on the internet that we say just go make games. It doesn't even have to be video games, but get out a pencil and a piece of paper and start making that board game that you've always wanted to make, or start drawing some plans for, what could even be part of your interactive demo that you want to put together. So definitely don't hesitate, and definitely take your risks early, because it only gets harder down the road to do those risks as you kind of get more and more set in your ways.
And I was just wondering, how big is Graphite Labs?
Graphite is 7 people, including me, so still very small. Everybody here is a developer. You know, somebody earlier said, "How many suits do you have at Graphite Lab?" You know, and I would say I'm the closest thing to it, and I'm in, you know, t-shirt and flip-flops right now. So, you know, we're very, you know, formal yet informal. You know, we've learned, we're seasoned, but we still like to have a lot of fun, and so far Hive Jump has been it.
Excellent. Well, I would like to urge everyone to go look at the Hive Jump Kickstarter, especially that that $30 pledge is a kind of deal we don't normally see, and everyone's going to benefit from that. So, you know, and you know what? If you want to get in earlier on the beta, it's only a little bit more. There we go. I'm selling so much today. I'm in a very generous selling mode. So yeah, go check that out. Thank you very much for joining us today, Matt.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Any quick message you want to leave with people before we close up?
No, just thanks for checking out the game. Very much appreciate your support. And I will be at GDC in San Francisco in a couple of weeks. So if there's anybody out there that's you know fans of the game, I'm sure I'll have a version on my laptop. If you can track me down, I get a little sneak peek.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for watching. I almost said listening, but you're doing both, so thank you. For watching. What are we? Elevator pitch. That's what we call
elevator
the show.
Pitch, yeah, we do something.
Yeah, I didn't. At least I didn't say the wrong one this time. Thank you for watching Elevator Pitch. Remember, you can catch it on our website, 8.5bit.com, along with all our other rubbish that I normally say at this point, but I'm too stuttery and sick today to say it properly. I have been Paul.
And I've been James.
He sure has been. So let's dance out to this one.